Good morning, vinyl community. I'm here to read out the last chapter of the Nick Schreck book, The Manson File. But let's face it, good don't have no power over evil. Nick Schreck, nice guys finish last. Charlie Manson. I'm last, ain't I? I look at this nice guy, referring to Langerman. Look how evil he is, man. He ain't, makes a gesture to mock Langerman's nose. His nose goes like this, makes a gesture to mock Langerman's ears. He goes like that, and his gut, Manson's exaggeration, the word gut, to sound obese in its pronunciation, hangs overneath his thing. You dig, and you don't know anything about what the money tells him. And I paid him 3 times as much. He walked backwards. I see what I'm saying. In other words, you just got money, man. Nick Schreck. What do you think he's responsible for getting you in here? Do you think he made any mistakes? Charlie Manson, no. Nick Schreck, no. CM. I don't see no mistakes. I think the infinite wisdom is all about things are perfect. Even these guys to the officials in the room. Even though I don't agree with them, you dig? And I conflict with them and argue with them. And I struggle for the same thing they struggle for, perfection. You know, I'm reaching for perfection, just like we are all reaching for perfection. But perfection is in the air, breathing a deep draught of air into his lungs, the water, the trees, and the wildlife, and it goes beyond my physical. See what I'm saying? In other words, they can't understand. I already gave this physical up, man. The physical's hanging down there on the courtroom. You know, if you want to interview me, you don't go talk to the DA. Maybe he can make up some more lies for you, maybe more stories for you. Because what the fuck are you going to understand anyways? Nick Schreck, what do you think you can tell people? That Manson suddenly grabbed Schreck by the lapel in an experimental attack? The guards reacted by training their guns on warning Manson continues this test of wills, makes his trademark crazy Charlie face. When this calculated shock tactic gets no response, Manson stops back and clinically observes the reaction caused by his feigned violence. This part of the ongoing initiatory test is over as suddenly as it began. Langerman, he'll let go. Nick Schreck, in answer to Langerman. Many chaotic motion sounds of scuffle between Manson and guards. Nick Schreck begins again. What do you think you can tell people that to get rid of these lies? What's it all about? Charlie Manson, calm again. Well, I don't give a fuck if they get rid of them. They can live their lives all in forever as far as I'm concerned, because what's where it's boiling down to, it's your lying and you die, you gotta live in that forever. You know, I mean, they preach it, but they don't believe it. I believe it. You don't preach it, but I know it. It's reality. It's a reality. Jesus Christ is a reality. Long pause as he grins, another reality enters him. And so that other guy, meaning the devil, Manson begins hiding with microphone, unclips it from his shirt, and the conflict that goes in between Nick Schreck. Hold on a second. To cameraman, having noticed that Manson has now removed his microphone. Do you have any sound level? Cameraman, no. Nick Schreck, yeah. What can you put the mic so now we can hear what you're saying? Charlie Manson, attempting to reach the microphone to his shirt, Manson curiously is suddenly piqued as to who's manning the electronics eye that's been watching him thus far. He squints his eyes, peering around. That's been watching him so far. He squints his eyes, peering around the video camera to get a better look at who's behind it. Yeah. It's just checking that dude out, man. Nick Schreck to cameraman. Do you have it? Cameraman. Charlie Manson. Cameraman has a way of hiding. Cameraman. Like this? Charlie Manson. Yeah. I know you're all Irish, right? Cameraman. I'm Irish English. Yeah. Charlie Manson. Yeah, that's what I figured. Cameraman. Ruddy complexion, huh? Manson, no, that's always happens every time I get out of jail. I have a kid, and then the broad ends up snitching on me and getting me locked up. And then she takes the kid on down the road. I can relate to this. This is what all my wives of my children did. They didn't let me see any of them until they were over 18. Then you have no rights. And she raises him up to be like her. And then I see him when he gets about 30 or 40 years old. This is my story as well. He's a little fat fucker, thinks like his mother. And I look at him and I say, yeah, Nick Schreck, do you know any of your children have followed in your footsteps? Charlie Manson, slightly irritated and evasive. They're all my children. And anybody who has ever seen me following in my footsteps. Nick Schreck, long awkward pause. Charlie Manson. How else would they do anything? Nick Schreck, another tense pause. Charlie Manson. Should I explain that? Nick Schreck, yeah. Charlie Manson. Getting up out of his chair, he takes one carefully contrived step forward and speaks in a methodically measured cadence. It's a brand new step, never been done. It's history. Every step I take now is history, and I'm carrying 100 million people in my mind. You see, the Pope chuckles. He's a cigarette butt on the floor. Pause. Nick Schreck. Well, you Manson tries to butt in, and you're Charlie Manson. Now open your mind into that. See all the Orientals and the dragons and the tongs. See all the feathers. See all the swastikas spinning? He widens his eyes, slowly moves his hands, arms uplifted, and continues these things to physical appearance. See yet, it's coming alive. It's out minds as the youth. In our minds as the youth. You see that spirit coming back? You see it coming back? You dig what I'm saying? In other words, I'm coming back in the spirit of the youth. It's come back from the battlefield. It's coming back from peace on earth. Peace on earth. And the peace on earth goes down that line, and I put that line on the blind man's pole, and then I run that down the other soul, and then I cut that on the back with another track, and I come back and I say, standing up to impersonate a locomotive train engineer pulling down the release lever of the steam and whistle. Choo, choo, choo. I know my mind, and I must say the very same person that you do. Nick Schreck, Charlie Manson, pointing to the camera, and the very same person that you do, I must only person left to trust, me. Now Manson is suddenly overcome with internal shift. A new thought elicits in his voice the sobriety of bitterness again, because you all lied to me. You all misused me. You all played your little game on me. You dig what I'm saying? And I fetch you're a little old track on mine, and I let you do your little old thing. You dig what I'm saying? And then this guy wants to fuck me in my pussy. I said, chuckle sarcastically, yeah, right. You want to fuck me in my pussy. Lay it right over there by my graveyard so you won't have too far to fall, you see? In other words, like everybody that thought they were playing game, I think they'll end by finding out that they got played by themselves because they each got the guy in the mirror. Nick Schreck, could you look in the camera and tell people who you're going to see this? Tell them when they tell you who you are? Charlie Manson, tell them who I really am? Nick Schreck, Walk over to Schreck and take his hands, opens it, turns it over, and examines it. This hand here, I've no doubt, long pause as he continues to examine Schreck's hand. Yeah, it works his way up Schreck's arm, testing to see how solid or flexible it is, then up to his shoulders, eventually grabbing his foot. Hey, I like that, man. Yeah, and that's that shoulder there. Pats him on the shoulder. Yeah, you look like a healthy young man. I like you. Nick Schreck, talk to the people out there who see you now. Charlie Manson, irritated. Well, I don't talk to the people out there. See, that's Manson prefers to continue his psychiatric investment in Schreck is his only true audience at the moment, rather than concerning himself about the intangible audience of the future. Nick Schreck, well, they're gonna, Charlie Manson, there's just an interview. Nick Schreck, well, you gonna hear you? Charlie Manson, well, that's your reality. Your You're the one who does that. I don't. Nick Schreck, well, what? I'm dealing with these. Nick Schreck, well, what do you have to say about what you've never been able to say before? Charlie Manson. Manson notices Shrek's severed ear. This seems to be a genuine sense of common ground conveyed from Manson to Schreck as he really looks Schreck in this eye-to-eye, one-on-one, and drops any attempt as the usual premeditated speeches. He's suddenly outside of himself for a moment, outside of being Charlie Manson, breaking character and chemistry, and they're looking in their little things, referring to microscopes. What you dig what I'm saying? And when I'm over here in Australia, certain and on Bushmen, and I don't need a telephone to communicate with that Bushman. You dig what I'm saying? Bushman right here inside my old soul, man. I just sit, he's right in. I can hear, I can even hear everything. I can see through his eyes. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm like, I am that Bushman. I am the solitary confinement. I am the slam dunk. You dig what I'm saying? And I am sitting here watching all you fucking Ruby Scoops, you dig? Playing all my life, all these years. You take me from court, you dig? And the lawyer represents me, and then he got guys who represent him. Then he's all represents that, and then these guys me, and they all represent that, and they all represent me to start with, and it's all my life, and they're standing up with all this big old shit, and they're standing up, and they're my life, and they're feeding on my bottom, and the king don't have any clothes on, man. You dig? We told you that in '69 when Nixon fell down. And now you're trying to drag that same old egg up here, up there, and trying to put something up. He's already gone, man. Rather than try to build another one. You see what I'm saying? Nick Schreck, what do you think happened in the world since you've been incarcerated and that you've made happen what that year? Charlie Manson. Oh, me? Hell, I don't make nothing happen. I just walk along with what's going on. I mean, make happen. What? Nick Schreck. Well, your thoughts, you were saying, referring to the big seven looks, as Manson brain was he can send all over the world, whereby his thoughts are received by others. Charlie Manson. Well, this same thing with you and your world that, you've made me happen. And I mean, you know how you can say I make you happen when you made me happen just as much as you happen, and then only what you put into me. You dig what I'm saying? Nick Schreck, again attempting to continue with Manson's comments about sending him thoughts to Norway and Australia. You put your thoughts out into the world. Manson continues to misunderstand Schreck, still hypersensitive about the erstwhile alleged followers' perceived betrayal, with accusations that Manson sent his thoughts and vibes to do their pernicious deeds. He becomes defensive. He's mistakenly assumed Schreck is implying the same. An adamant, although unnecessary, self-defense ensues. Charlie Manson, no. You put your thought into me. You sent me this, and you did this, and you said so-and-so, and you put such and such, and I said, oh, this is what you see? Man, this must be, wow, all right. And now I mean, in other words, is that's what you see when I met you in that? Yeah, that's what's beautiful, fantastic. Manson is alluding here to earlier correspondence with Schreck, indicating to Schreck that he didn't send his thoughts out to Schreck to do these things done in support of his cause. He is still, however, misunderstanding that Schreck was getting back to his previous comments. Nick Schreck, what do you want people to see? Charlie Manson, do you want people to see me? Nick Schreck, yeah, do you care? Charlie Manson, no, not really. I just like to get down the road and play my music. See, I played my music for the Manson fans, followed himself by billowing his shirt. Are you hot in here? Nick Schreck, a little bit. I play my music for me. I don't play my music to entertain people. I play music because I am my music. I live 24 hours a day in music. I begin playing invisible instruments, singing along with instrumental sound effects, and tapping his feet to the rhythm. Drumma, 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 drumma. I get up in the morning, tap, tap, tap of his feet to rhythm continues while finishing his sentence, as if it's beginning of a song. And that's what I live in all day long. You know, it's like a long time ago, back in the 50s, when I was in reform school, I would get in a fight to get in an argument, and I'd be down in the solitary confinement, and they'd have me down in solitary confinement, and I'd just go break into another spontaneous vocal, rhythmic, musical improvisation, and I'd turn everything off a long time ago. He laughs at himself as if it's a private joke that he's got one up on the system by turning everything off. Back in Virginia, when I was about 17, laughs again, but this time with a little wearily to capture the time frame that he's referring to here. Manson slurs through a tired, mocking rendition of the catchy hook from the Platters song, Earth Angel. Earth Angel, Earth Angel, in other words, a long time ago, I turned all that shit off, man. You know what I mean? In general, around that point, he seems to be tiring of the game of the interview. A blurred scrabble of half words, buzzes, and other words attempting to get into the new song. Nick Schreck, what do you think about all the musicians you met in the 60s who were trying to keep you in some way, too? Charlie Manson, ain't nobody ever tried to help me do nothing, man. Nobody helps you. Everybody wants to ride. Laughs bitterly. They're talking about help, but they ain't no such thing. You gotta help yourself. Everybody that says they want to help, you dig what I'm saying? They got, everybody, we all hold a little, and then where does it? You dig? In other words, am I a bitch, a homosexual, a punk, or I am a macho, or a boop goop? I'm a flip dib, or am I all things to all people in all ways? Am I their death if they seek to it too closely? Am I in their judgment if I find harshness within themselves? And I their benefactor if I got their, in other words, like, what am I? The second time he asks the question, he really wants to answer, what am I? Nick Schreck, I can't tell you. Charlie Manson, well then, there's how many millions of people there in that right now because of you and your generation. Because when I fell out of this permanently and I was playing my music, you, Neil Diamond, and Buffalo Springfield. Nick Schreck, I never liked them much. Charlie Manson, and Beach Boys. All them guys came to me, dig, and you said, imitating the aforementioned recording artist, how can you play this kind of music, man? He's talking about Brian Wilson again. Well, never heard that kind of music before, and says, wow, this is a strange kind of music, And I said, oh, and they said, copied and stole it from me. They took it down and put it down in whatever they did, you dig? But I didn't do the same thing. Just when I gave you that motion, executing a mesmeric pass with his hands, in other words, like we're all in another martial arts energy exchange moment, and we're in harmony with that, and there's no need to be out of harmony with that. The only fear and violence and bloodshed is created by this dude's confusion. Langerman again. Nick Schreck, do you think violence can be part of harmony? Charlie Manson, violence is a very much part of harmony, and when you can't touch intelligence and you can tell it, get off me, and it doesn't understand you, and you say, get off of me, and it still doesn't understand you. You say, well, what else can I do? I just hang myself, and then I hang myself, and as soon as I hang myself, you know right where to go. Long pause. You see the balance? You see the balance? You dig? Closing in on the end of the interview, Manson will be heading back to the monotonous routine of his present purgatory. This comes full circle and prepares to depart by returning to his most topical irritation, Langerman. This is my brother that I'm talking to you about. A lousy, cheese-headed motherfucker won't do nothing for nobody. You dig what I'm saying? He ain't worth a fucking anything, not even his mother. You dig what I'm saying? And I'm stuck. When the last tape runs out, Manson relaxes, poses for photographs, speaks of several topics still in unresolved in his correspondence with Schreck. When the guards gently approach him to replace his handcuffs, he begins laughingly. Jointly rolled along on his back like a stink bug on one of the tables in the room. The black guard laughs, obviously used to these antics. The tickle Manson as he escorts himself, a surreal scene of a human worth in an inhumane setting. After this playful interlude, regarded with distaste by Langerman, Manson stands up gently grim. He places his black glasses and cap back on his head. He assumes his expression of bruised dignity, and his hands cuffed and are led back to his cell. He tells Schreck, "Take it easy, baby. You know you're walking out there for me, don't you, man?" I'm going to end right here. I'm going to read one more thing here. Appendix B, the Bugliosi file, and there's more continued with the Manson and Nick Schreck interview, but we're just going to read this little article here out of the LA Times, Part 2, Saturday, November 4th, 1972. The Bugliosi file. Here's a quote from Mick Jagger and Sympathy for the Devil. "All the cops are criminals and all the sinners saints." LA Times, Part 2, Saturday, November 4th, 1972. Former milkman's complaint adds to DA race confusion, by Bill Boyarsky and Robert A. Jones. A former milkman appearing at a press conference sponsored by supporters of Deputy District Attorney Bush said Friday that Deputy District Attorney Vincent Bugliosi misused the power of his office to harass him for personal reasons. Bugliosi, running against Bush, admitted that he had a district attorney investigator trace the ex-mailman's Herbert A. Weissel of Los Angeles for a personal matter, and that he conflicted the man at his job, but he contacted the man at his job. But he said that the personal matter was that he suspected Weissel had stolen $300 from his home during the time he delivered milk there. Weissel denied that he stole any money. He said that the personal matter was something else, that he refused to say what it was about. Whatever. Gives sworn affidavit. Weissel made his complaint to newsmen invited to the press conference by Maurice Harwick, a Beverly Hills attorney. Harwick is a member of the Truth Squad and attorneys backing Bush, and he said the press conference was not sponsored by the squad. Weissel told his story under questioning from another attorney backing Bush, George Denny, and in a sworn affidavit distributed to a newsman. On March 13, 1969, I was informed by my wife that someone had called our house, and while I was at work, asked for me, saying he was a friend of mine and asking if I had worked for Arden Dairy. Weissel said that in the affidavit he no longer worked for the dairy. He said that the man refused to give his name. He said he called other times. From what he told me, Weissel said, it appeared that he was trying to get written authorization from me to get my work records at Arden Dairy to satisfy himself about a personal matter which he discussed at length with my wife. He said about the time, he said his wife noticed strange cars driving up and down the block, parking across from the house. He had his phone number changed, he said, and then one day he received a note saying, "You shouldn't have changed your phone number. That wasn't nice." Weissel said he called a cousin, and it goes on and on to how he saw Bugliosi running for district attorney against Bush, and he called the D up and said, "This guy can't be running for DA. This guy just harassed me and my family." So we'll finish that story another day. We're going to end the chapter today. We say thanks to all the Vinyl members and all the Vinyl community. And if you like my stream at all, like and share. And God bless them all.